In the Peloponnese Peninsula, in ancient Greece, flourished one of history's most unique and feared societies. Sparta, unlike Athens, focused on democracy and the arts. Sparta was a militarized oligarchy, where every aspect of life was shaped by discipline, obedience, and the art of war. From birth, a Spartan's life was dedicated to the state. Newborns were inspected, the weak were abandoned. At age 7, boys entered the agoge, a rigorous military training system that lasted until they were 30. The agoge transformed boys into formidable warriors. They learned to fight, survive in extreme conditions, endure pain, and develop unwavering loyalty to their comrades in the polis. Education included not only brutal physical training but also the development of laconism, the ability to express oneself concisely and directly, without circumlocution. At 20, the Spartan became a complete soldier, living in barracks and dedicating his life to military service, even after marriage. Spartan women, in turn, were physically trained and enjoyed more freedom and rights than in other Greek cities, with the purpose of bearing strong and healthy children for the state. Sparta's ultimate goal was to maintain its hegemony in the Peloponnese and defend its independence against any threat. While Sparta perfected its war machine on its isolated peninsula, to the east, a colossal and expansionist power was in full ascent, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. In the 6th century BCE, under leaders like Cyrus the Great and Darius I, the Persian Empire had become the largest the world had ever seen, extending from India to Macedonia, from Egypt to Central Asia. With vast resources, immense populations, and a multifaceted army, the Persians were an overwhelming force, and their ambition was clear: to expand their dominion across the entire Mediterranean, including Greece. The first Persian attempts to subdue the Greek city-states occurred during the Persian Wars, at the turn of the 5th century BCE. In 490 BCE, Darius I sent an expedition that was defeated by the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. This defeat, unexpected for the Persians, only further inflamed the Achaemenid determination to subjugate the Greeks. Darius's successor, Emperor Xerxes I, inherited his father's ambition and desire for revenge. He mobilized an army of legendary proportions, described by Herodotus as containing millions of men, although modern estimates suggest hundreds of thousands, perhaps between 100,000 and 300,000 soldiers, still making it the largest military force ever seen in antiquity. Xerxes also built a bridge of boats over the Hellespont to cross from Asia to Europe and excavated a canal at Mount Athos for his naval fleet, demonstrating the magnitude of his planning and the power of his empire. News of the Persian invasion, with its frightening scale, reached the Greek city-states, which, despite their frequent rivalries, began to realize the gravity of the threat. In 481 BCE, a congress of Greek city-states gathered at the Isthmus of Corinth to form an alliance and discuss a defense strategy. Sparta, with its unmatched military reputation, was chosen to lead the Greek land forces. The situation was shaping up for an unequal confrontation, where Greek discipline and bravery would be tested against the vast war machine of the world's most powerful empire. At the heart of the Greek resistance against the imminent Persian invasion stood Leonidas, one of Sparta's 2 kings, born around 540 BCE. Leonidas belonged to the Aegeid dynasty and was the son of King Anaxandridas II. His ascent to the throne was not direct. He became king only after the death of his half-brother Cleomenes I and his nephew. Like every Spartan, Leonidas underwent the rigorous agoge, which made him an exemplary warrior and leader, imbued with the values of discipline, courage, and sacrifice for the polis. His authority came not only from his royal lineage but from his ability to embody the Spartan ideal. The decision to face the vast Persian army at a specific location was crucial. After deliberations in the Greek Congress, the choice fell upon the pass of Thermopylae, which means hot gates. This strategic location, on the eastern coast of central Greece, was a natural bottleneck, a narrow passage between steep mountains and the Malian Gulf, with the sea on one side and impassable cliffs on the other. At its narrowest point, the pass was only a few meters wide, which made it a perfect choke point. A numerically superior army would not be able to flank the defenders or use its vast number of men effectively. It was the only significant land route to southern Greece, and its defense was vital to prevent the Persian advance toward Athens and the Peloponnese. The Greek strategy was audacious, but necessary, to halt the Persian advance at Thermopylae by land, while the Greek naval fleet, led by the Athenians, would attempt to block the Persian navy in the Strait of Artemisium. The objective was not a decisive victory against the entire Persian army, but rather to gain time for the southern Greek city-states to organize their defenses, evacuate their populations, and prepare a broader resistance. It was a risky gamble, but the only one that offered a chance against overwhelming Persian numerical superiority. However, there was a significant obstacle: the celebration of the Carnean festivals in Sparta and the Olympic Games in other Greek cities. Both were sacred religious festivals, during which it was forbidden for Spartans and other Greeks to undertake large-scale military campaigns. Although the Persian threat was immense, religious piety was equally strong. Leonidas, aware of the urgency but respecting traditions, could not mobilize the full Spartan army. Instead, he set out for Thermopylae with a symbolic but elite force, 300 Spartans from his personal guard, all of them men who already had sons, ensuring their lineages would not be extinguished in case of death. This was not the total force Sparta could have sent, but it represented the pinnacle of Spartan discipline and courage. Besides the Spartans, Leonidas gathered a contingent of about 7,000 to 7,200 hoplites from other Greek city-states, including 1,000 Tegeans and Mantineans, 10 Phocians, 700 Thespians, 400 Corinthians, 300 Phlacians, 80 Mycenaeans, and a small number of Locrians and Aponians. The most notable, besides the Spartans, were the 700 Thespians, who would stand out for their unwavering loyalty. The arrival of the Greek forces at the pass was strategic. They fortified an old Phocian wall, which already existed at the narrowest point of the pass, and prepared for the inevitable clash. Leonidas knew he was leading his men into a battle where survival was unlikely, but the objective was much greater than immediate military victory. It was the defense of Greek freedom and inspiration for future resistance, the choice of a few, but the best. To defend a crucial point was an act of calculated desperation, a sacrifice that would echo for millennia. The small Greek force, led by King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, with the crucial support of thousands of allies from other city-states, took up positions in the Thermopylae Pass in mid-August 480 BCE. The narrow passage, with the sea on one side and steep mountains on the other, was the final gamble to stop the Persian advance. The Greeks fortified an ancient stone wall, using it as a base for their tight defense. The Persian army, an overwhelming force, began to arrive. Xerxes I, confident in his numerical superiority, waited for days, believing the Greeks would retreat in the face of such might. He sent messengers demanding the Greeks surrender, asking them to hand over their weapons. Leonidas's legendary reply, "Molen Laber, come and get them," echoed through the pass, defying the Persian king and setting the tone for what was to come. On the first day of battle, August 18, 480 BCE, Xerxes ordered a direct assault. He launched waves of his light infantry soldiers, known for their skill with bows, and later, his elite troops, the Persian Immortals, against the Greek lines. The Spartans and their allies, armed with long spears, round shields, and heavy armor, fought in a compact phalanx formation. This dense and disciplined formation, with overlapping shields, created a shield wall and spears that was practically impenetrable in the limited space of the pass. With each Persian charge, the Greeks advanced and retreated in perfect coordination, keeping the phalanx intact and maximizing the lethality of their spears, which were longer than Persian weapons. The Persians, attacking en masse, could not use their numerical superiority, and their lighter weapons were ineffective against Greek armor. Persian casualties were catastrophic. Accounts describe mountains of bodies. The second day of battle was a brutal repetition of the first. Xerxes, furious at his troops' inability to break the Greek line, again sent his Immortals and other elite divisions, promising them victory. But the Greek phalanx, trained for endurance and discipline, continued to repel the attacks with relentless tenacity. The Spartans, in particular, were masters of feigned retreat tactics, pretending to flee to disorganize the Persian lines and then suddenly turning to attack, causing great confusion and slaughter. The Greeks' discipline and resistance completely frustrated the Persians' mass attack tactics, as they were unaccustomed to such opposition. Persian morale began to be shaken, and the great king's reputation for invincibility was called into question. The situation changed dramatically on the night of the second to the third day of battle. August 20th, 480 BCE, a local man, a goatherd named Ephialtes of Moles, motivated by promises of Persian gold and wealth, betrayed the Greeks. He revealed to Xerxes the existence of a secret mountain path, a narrow and little-known trail that bypassed Thermopylae, passing behind the Greek positions and allowing the Persian army to flank the defenders. This trail, known as Anapia, was guarded by a contingent of 1,000 Phocians, who were caught by surprise and quickly dispersed by the Persian Immortals, who marched under the command of Hyde. When Leonidas received news of Ephialtes' betrayal and the approaching Persian flanking force, he understood the inevitability of defeat. His position had become untenable. He would be crushed by a frontal attack and a pincer movement from behind. In a decision that echoes the deepest Spartan honor, Leonidas ordered most of the allied Greek forces to retreat. He knew that the main objective, gaining time for the rest of Greece, had been achieved, and that more lives would be lost uselessly. The allied hoplites, with the exception of a few loyal contingents, left, escaping before the Persian encirclement was complete. Leonidas's 300 Spartans, however, remained beside them, the 700 Thespians, under the command of Damophiles, who vowed to fight to the death for their honor and Greek freedom, and about 400 Thebans who were forced to stay as hostages, although many of them surrendered or fled at the moment of truth. On the third and final day of battle, the Persians attacked Leonidas and his men head-on, while the Persian Immortals flanked them from behind. The Greeks, aware of their fate, fought with desperate ferocity. Leonidas was one of the first to fall, killed by Persian arrows. The fight for his body was fierce, with the Spartans repelling for Persian attacks to recover it. The Greek phalanx, though reduced, maintained its formation, retreating to a small hill, where they made their last stand. They fought to the last man, their spears and swords broken, using their hands and teeth when necessary. All 300 Spartans were killed, along with the loyal Thespians and many of the Thebans. The Battle of Thermopylae, which lasted from August 18th to 20th for 80 BCE, was a tactical defeat for the Greeks, but a resounding moral victory. The sacrifice of Leonidas and his men, against overwhelming odds, inspired a nation and showed the world that, even in the face of the greatest power, freedom and honor could be defended to the last breath. The fall of the Thermopylae Pass and the death of Leonidas with his 300 Spartans and the 700 loyal Thespians was not a defeat for the Greek spirit. It was a moral victory that ignited the determination of a nation. Although tactically the Persians had captured the pass, the price paid was exorbitant. Persian casualties were immense, and Xerxes' invincibility was stained by the tenacity of a handful of Greeks. Thermopylae proved that the vast empire could be wounded, and that freedom was worth the ultimate sacrifice. News of the sacrifice spread like wildfire throughout Greece. In Athens, the city was evacuated and the Acropolis was burned by the Persians. Nevertheless, the time gained at Thermopylae was invaluable. It allowed the Athenian naval fleet, led by the brilliant Themistocles, to strategically position itself. Months later, in September 480 BCE, the Greek navy, in an act of tactical genius, crushed the overwhelming Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis. The Strait of Salamis, much like Thermopylae, demonstrated that geography and tactics could nullify numerical superiority. The Persian fleet, the logistical pillar of the invasion, was destroyed, forcing Xerxes to retreat a large part of his army to Asia. The final defeat of the Persians would come the following year. In 479 BCE, at the Battle of Plataea, the remainder of the Persian army in Greece, led by Mardonius, was decisively defeated by a coalition of Greek forces, with the Spartans playing a crucial role. On the same day, the Greek navy obtained another decisive victory at the Battle of Mycale, off the coast of Ionia. These victories marked the end of the Persian Wars and secured the independence of the Greek city-states, ushering in a period of great cultural and political flourishing for Greece. The Golden Age of Athens. The legacy of Leonidas and the defenders of Thermopylae is immortal. Their sacrifice became the ultimate symbol of heroism, courage, and resistance to the last drop of blood against tyranny. The phrase "Molin Labe," come and get them, attributed to Leonidas, became a rallying cry for defenders of freedom throughout history. The simple epitaph on the hill where the Spartans fell, which read, "Go tell the Spartans, a stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie," is a testament to their unwavering loyalty and the essence of Spartan discipline. The cultural impact of this battle is profound. Poets and historians, from Herodotus to Simonides of CEOs, celebrated the act of the 300. In the modern era, the story has been retold countless times in books, paintings, comics, and, of course, in cinema, though not always with historical accuracy. The cinematographic sensationalism may have simplified the narrative, focusing solely on the Spartans, but the essence of sacrifice for an ideal remains. Thermopylae was not just a lost battle, it was a lit flame that illuminated the path to final victory. Leonidas and his men did not die in vain. Their death was a catalyst, a rallying cry for the rest of Greece, uniting them against a common enemy. They defended not just a pass, but the idea of freedom, of the polis's autonomy against an overwhelming empire. The sacrifice at Thermopylae became a pillar of Greek identity and an eternal example that bravery and conviction can overcome even the greatest numerical disadvantages. The story of Leonidas and the 300 at Thermopylae is an epic of courage and sacrifice. What is the most inspiring aspect of this battle for you? Spartan discipline, Leonidas's leadership, or the impact this sacrifice had on Greek unity? If you could have witnessed a battle in ancient history, would it be Thermopylae or another? Why share your opinion in the comments and join our discussion about the heroes and great confrontations of the past? And if there's another legendary figure, or an event that radically changed the course of history, that you'd love us to explore in our next video, leave your suggestion below. Your curiosity is our guide to unraveling the great stories of the world, and the next adventure begins with you.